Hey, what's up everybody, Nexel here. Today we're playing Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and we are going to be doing a Kingdom Hearts Union Cross primer video, a tutorial video meant to explain certain mechanics of the game. Today's tutorial is going to be on spirit training campaigns, which have happened twice to date, so I feel confident in making a tutorial video about it. So for this tutorial, we are going to talk about 5 things. We'll talk about what is spirit training, then we'll talk about why it is important, we'll talk about the actual campaign itself, then we'll talk about unlocking extra slots and paying for extra roles, as well as optimizing your spirit training. So what is spirit training? So spirit training is a way of getting even better traits than what you have access to normally. So once you unlock the pet, which I believe happens around quest 17, and you tap on their page on the top left, you can hit this train now button, which is going to unlock your training slots, or it'll display your training slots. Now, for these training slots, as you can see, there's a maximum of 4, and each slot only allows you to train or trait 1 medal. So in this example here, I have 2 unlock slots. That means per training session, I can trait 2 different medals, but I don't have these 2 unlocked, meaning that I'm missing out on 2 of them. We'll talk about these a little bit later and how to unlock them and how to get the most benefit out of them, but that's what you need to know about training your medals or using the pet training. Now, why is pet training important? So pet training is important because it gives you access to a special trait, an additional trait on top of the regular 5 that a medal has. Now remember that traits are the best way of making a medal go from A class to S class, making that medal even more future-proof by giving it a good toolbox. Traits are absolutely broken and are absolutely necessary for high levels of gameplay. The pet training gives you access to a special trait, which you can see on the bottom here. This special trait is important because it can give you access to resources that are impossible normally with just the regular traits. So for example here, you can see that this illustrated Kingdom Hearts 3 Xion has paralysis resist 100% as its special trait. With the regular trait rolls, you can actually only get paralysis resist 20%. So this is like 5 paralysis resist 20% built into one trait, and that is really, really good. These spirit trainings are important because, again, these extra traits, these special traits, can be significantly better than anything that you could get from the regular traits. So, for example, if we take a look at this Vanitas Remnant. So, Vanitas Remnant has damage in raids 100%. Without any additional damage in raid traits here, this is doubling the raid damage with one trait. Normally, these can only go up to damage in raids 50%, so damage in raids 100% is like 2 damage in raid 50%, which take up 2 different slots. So to get that all condensed down into one slot is really good. Another example of something that's only available via the pet training is going to be extra attack 120% power, which is the best pet trait and the least likely to show up. It is an extra attack that does even more damage than the first one, and it's absolutely busted. So spirit training is important simply because it gives you access to resources you can only get through that training. And again, these extra resources can be very meaningful. That extra attack 120% power, that damage in raids 100%, that can make a huge difference when it comes to playing the game. Now, why is the campaign important? So let me show you all the potential spirit traits or the special traits that you can get. So there's a lot here. As you can see, you could potentially be getting defense plus 1000. You can get paralysis resist 20%. You can get max HP plus 900. Now, what this table is, it shows you all the traits, the normal rate, which is going to be the odds of you hitting that trait outside of the campaign. Then it gives you the campaign rate, or what are your odds of hitting that trait during the campaign. And then finally, that last column is going to be rate increase. Now, there's a lot of blacked out cells on this table, and what that means is that during the spirit training campaign, they remove a lot of the extra spirit traits that we don't like. So while it is nice to have an extra trait, a lot of these we really don't care about. So for example, max gauge is +1. We have a regular trait that's max gauge is +2, so that's already not very good. Max HP plus 1000 doesn't really matter because these high level enemies are going to be doing billions of points of damage to you, so that extra 1000 HP isn't going to do you much. So during the pet training, they get rid of a lot of these traits that we don't care about and condense it down to ones that we do care about. So let me go ahead and condense this table down for you. So these are all the pet traits that you could get from the pet training during the campaign. And as you can see, it's a lot smaller and removes a lot of the ones that we don't care about. Now, as you can see, some of these have an orange row to them, and the reason behind those is because those are stopper traits. Those are traits that are even better than what you could get from a regular trading. So as you can see, extra attack 120%, damage and raids plus 100%, strength plus 2000, and poison resist 100%, sleep resist 100%, and paralysis resist 100%. These are going to be what I call stopper traits. Stopper traits are special traits or pet traits that once you get them, you generally stop trading that medal and move on to the next one. The reason behind that is because if we look at the normal rate for those particular stopper traits, extra attack 120% only has a 0.2% chance of showing up during a normal time outside of the campaign. If we look at paralysis resist 100%, there's only a 1% chance of that showing up. Those special traits, I call them stopper traits because they're broken. They're absolutely busted, and they can really help you get past certain quests. So for example, if you have an enemy where their main strategy is to keep paralyzing you and making you skip your medals, if you have a medal that's got paralysis resist 100%, even if it's like a tier 8 or an old tier 9, you can just slap it on the Keyblade and you can't be paralyzed anymore. So these stopper traits are really busted, and generally because they happen so frequently, because they show up so frequent, because they don't show up very frequently, you want to stop trading that medal once you get it, because you just be happy with that and then you move on. Granted, there are exceptions to this, especially during campaigns like right now, and people might have a lot of extra rolls to do, but generally once you get these, especially as a free-to-play player, you might want to consider stopping pet trading that medal. So let's go back to the odds. Now that fourth column, that rate increase is going to be very important, because look at the rate increase for some of these stopper medals, these stopper traits. So extra attack 120% during a normal time frame outside of the campaign, it's a 0.2% chance of showing up. That's 1 every 500 traits that trait is going to show up. Now during the campaign, they bumped it up to 6%. Pretty much a little bit more than 1 every 20 pet trainings is going to have extra attack 120%. And that's a rate increase of times 30. During the campaign, your odds of getting the best pet trait in game has gone up times 30, and that is absolutely huge. If we take a look at the other stopper traits, their rates have gone up by at minimum 4.29. So the odds of you getting these stopper traits, these really busted traits that are like multiple different regular traits combined into one slot, is a lot higher now. And honestly, you should really be taking advantage of this pet training, going in every single day, making sure that you get at least 1 pet training in a day. So we talked about what is pet training, why it's important, why the campaign is important simply because of these rates. Now let's talk about unlocking extra slots or paying for extra slots. So if we go back to my game and then we hit the training slots, as you can see, we talked about it earlier, there's 4 different slots that you can unlock. Now let's talk about how to unlock these slots, because generally there is only one available to you at all times, and that's going to be this one on the top left. So as you can see, this is pulled straight from the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross wiki. That first slot is unlocked by default. You will always have access to that, meaning that every single time you can trade, which again is every 20 hours, you will always have that slot unlocked to you. Now slot 2, which is going to be the one in the top right, is going to be unlocked by purchasing the weekly Jewel Extravaganza, which again, if we go to the shop really quick, is going to be VIP. It's going to be the weekly Jewel Extravaganza. It's going to be Jewel Box Plus for the first time that week. So this requires real money, and that might be a good reason that people don't want to buy into that second slot, because requiring real money in this game can be very expensive if you develop a habit of doing it. So the second slot unlocked by $15 US. The third slot, which is going to be on the bottom right there, is by purchasing Jewel Box E. That's how you unlock it. Now if we go back to the Jewel shop and look at Jewel Box E, which is right at the top, it's going to be $100 US. Now I didn't talk about it with the weekly Jewel Extravaganza or slot number 2, but that one's available for essentially until it resets. So Monday at 12 a.m. PST, this resets. So to optimize this, you want to purchase it right at the beginning of the week and start using it. For slot number 3, which is the one down here, for Jewel Box E, once you pay that $100 US, this slot is unlocked for 31 days consecutively. It doesn't matter when you pay for it. You can pay for it in the middle of December. You can pay for it in the beginning of May. It's active for 31 days after you purchase Jewel Box E. Now, the 4th slot, which is going to be the most important slot and the one that applies to the most amount of players, is slot number 4, which is going to be on the bottom left. It's the one I have unlocked right now. So for this one, to unlock it, you have to draw 5 times from 10 metal deals. So if we go to the shop really quick and look at the actual deals, keep in mind that this does not account for the ticket draws. So these 10 pulls don't count towards unlocking that slot. It's ones like this where you have to spend jewels and then you get 10 medals. That helps unlock the slot. Now, to unlock that slot, again, you have to pay for 5 different draws. So essentially, 1,500 jewels, unless it's, or I'm sorry, 15,000 jewels, unless it's something like a falling price deal or something like that. 5 draws from those 10 metal deals unlocks the slot, and then that slot is unlocked for 72 hours after the 5th draw. Keep in mind that this 72 hours is going to be important because the way that the game normally reports things is in days. It's in days until the last 24 hours, and that's when it starts to say how many hours left is something going to apply for. So this last slot is going to be very important going into the next thing, which is optimizing your spirit training. Now, remember what I said, you can trait every 20 hours. So as you can see, my training resets in 20 hours. In order to make this speed up, in order to get extra trainings, you can actually pay for them. You can hit train now when there's a jewel icon there, and then by spending jewels, you can do additional trainings for that day. So it's one free one every 20 hours. But to do an additional one that same day, you have to pay jewels. Now, the way this works is that after you do your regular one default training for the day, the freebie one, you could pay 100 jewels to get a second one. You could pay another 100 jewels to get a third one. And then you could pay 200 jewels to get a 4th one. To get a 5th one is going to cost you 500 jewels, but at that point, it's not worth it. So if you have extra slots unlocked like I do right now, or if it's during a campaign, it's generally a good idea to spend 400 jewels or getting 4 total pet trainings per day. The reason behind this is because 400 jewels is actually breaking even for the most part. So if we look at our daily quest, as you can see, if you do the daily quest here, you get 300 jewels right off the bat. And then by logging in, you get a minimum of 100 jewels. So 400 jewels right there, and then 400 jewels to do the extra pet trainings. That means you're netting 0, and that's an okay place to be. That's why a lot of people don't spend into this extra 500, because at that point, that's when you start losing jewels. That's when you're spending extra jewels in order to do the pet trainings, which ultimately are a gamble. Remember, it's all chance. None of it is like you will get extra attack 120% after this amount. So it's all just a gamble, it's all just a roll. So in that case, you don't want to be losing more jewels than you are getting per day. So that's why a lot of people stop at 500. That's when it's generally not worth it. Now, one thing to note, again, for that 4th slot, it unlocks the minute that you do that 5th pull. So there's a way to optimize this because every 20 hours really makes it only sound like you can do it once a day. So if it expires in 72 hours, really that means, sure, that's like 3 days, that's 3 pet trainings. There's a way to optimize this just by squeezing the extra time, and I made a little table for that. So let's just say you did your 5 pulls, and that last pull, that 5th pull, was at 12 a.m. PST. So that is time 0. That is 0 of 72 hours, and then you do training there, a training session there. Now, 20 hours later is going to be that same day, day 1, that first 24 hours, and then you do another training session. So that's 2 in the same day. Now 20 hours later is going to be 4 p.m. on the second day, and then you do a training then. And then 20 hours again is going to be 12 p.m. on the third day, and that's where you get to do another training. Now, as you can see, even though it says 72 hours and that's like 3 days, and it makes it sound like you can only do 3 training sessions, if you time it all correctly, you can do a 4th training session. And again, that's an additional shot at getting extra attack 120%, getting status ailment resist 100%, and then damage and raids 100%. So if you time it all correctly, especially with this extra fourth slot where you unlock it after doing pulls, to maximize this slot, you can do 4 training sessions over the course of those 72 hours. And there's a nice little buffer of 12 hours just in case like you mistime it and you don't trait for like an hour over, so at like 21 hours as opposed to the 20 hours. There's like an extra 12-hour buffer to make sure that you fit in that 4th training. So really use this to optimize your pet training. Again, getting those additional trainings and those additional traits, which can be absolutely broken. Again, EA 120 can be game changing. Paralysis resist 100% can be game changing. So I really advise people to take advantage of this training and get everything you possibly can on your best medals. So let's take a quick look at mine and give you kind of an example. So for example, if we look at my Melody of Memory Kyrie, one of the best medals in the game, unquestionably. It has poison resist 100%. This is going to make this medal last even longer than it already is, because now I've got a medal that renovas and it makes me immune to poison. Beautiful. That is 2 different things built into one medal, and all because of the pet training giving me that additional chance at getting poison resist 100%. Let's take another look at a medal that has strength plus 2000. So for example, I believe this Kyrie has strength plus 2000. Now when we talk about medals getting outclassed, one of the big things is a power creep, meaning that one new medal is stronger than the previous medal, therefore the new medal wins. In this case, getting an extra strength plus 2000 can level that playing field, making this medal, which could be older, stronger than a new medal simply because it's got that extra boost. So these pet trainings are really important. Really take advantage of them and make sure you get as many of these stopper traits as possible. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer when I have the time. If you'd like to join my Discord, get some additional help off hours when I am not recording, go ahead, type that link into your URL, and it will automatically invite you into the Discord. But that's all for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, until next time, take it easy.